Hi, I'm Serge, and normally with Nelson, we do the judge video for the PPRs, and here's my judge shirt, but I don't really need it today because I'm joined by special guest Mark Rosewater. Mark, for people who aren't familiar, what's your role with this set?
Well, this particular, for Unfinity, I'm the lead designer of Unfinity.
Okay.
But also I'm the unrules manager and the head designer of Magic, so I have many hats. But I'm very, very involved in the rules of this particular set because half of the cards in the set are what we call Acorn, which are what formerly was silver bordered, meaning cards that don't quite work in the normal rules. And then half the cards are what we call Eternal, which are normal cards that would work like, any card normally works.
I'm so glad you're here. I get very stressed out for having to do unrules, and I'm happy to put the burden onto you. Now, for starters, what is the golden rule of an unset?
Okay, so normally in normal Magic, the way the rules work is every card that has the same English title card of a card are identical. So no matter what version you play, they're all the same. But in ungames, or games that have Acorn cards or silver border cards, you have to care about the specific card you're playing. And the reason for that is, let's say I care about a piece of art. Well, a card might be reprinted multiple times and have different art. So if they have to be treated all the same, then you can't. There's different pieces of art. But if we care about art or care about names or care about different qualities, you look at the actual card you're playing. So the question is, does this creature have a hat? Well, look at the actual card you're playing to see if it has a hat.
All right, reading the card explains the card.
Read the card, yeah. So, and then that's for tournaments, like I said, that rule's a little bit different. But in unplay, just look at what you're actually playing with.
Amazing. Well, let's start with some of the big mechanics from the set. And first up, we have stickers and tickets.
Yeah.
How do those work?
Okay, so the way that the stickers work is in your booster pack. In each sheet, there's one sheet inside each booster pack.
Okay.
On each sheet, there are 3 name stickers, 3 art stickers, 2 ability stickers, and 2 power toughness stickers. So 10 total.
Okay.
And the way it works is a card will say that it'll give you some number of tickets. And the tickets are like energy. They are counters that you, the player, get. And then all the ability and the power toughness stickers require a ticket cost. So
cool.
Most cards will first give you some tickets and then have you sticker a card. When you sticker a card, you only can sticker a non-land permanent that you own. So it has to be a permanent, not land, and you literally have to own it. You can't sticker a card you don't own.
I bet you a lot of people want to sticker their opponent's cards, right?
They can't. You cannot sticker your opponent's cards. And if somehow you get your opponent's cards, even if it tells you can sticker, you can't because you do not own that card. You can only sticker a card that you own.
That's a very important distinction.
And so the way it works is a card will say, I'll give you usually some number of tickets, and then I will sticker something. Some cards will say sticker a name sticker, sticker an art sticker, but most cards just say sticker a sticker, and you can choose what you want. If you do name stickers or art sticker, those are free. They do not cost tickets. If you do an ability sticker or a power toughness sticker, they require tickets, and you must pay that. If you're unable to pay a ticket cost, then you can only do names or art. You can't do, let's say you have no tickets or 1 ticket. The smallest ticket cost is 2. So let's say I only have 1 ticket. Well, there's no ability or power toughness I can use, so those will be off limits to me. But then you choose what you want to do. You put it on the card. The way stickers work is, as long as that card stays in a public zone, which means people can see where it is. The public zones are on the battlefield, in the graveyard, in exile, and in the command zone. As long as in any of those zones, the sticker stays on till the end of the game. If it goes to a non-public zone, which is the hand or library, it peels off and goes back onto your sticker sheet. Once the sticker goes back on the sticker sheet, you're free to sticker it again if another card lets you sticker.
I actually love that.
Yes.
And people worried about the card. It's super easy to put them on and off, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, we made them such that they won't harm the cards. They should go on and off the cards. So the glue, what they call it, tackiness, it's got a later tackiness so that you can go on and come off. And like I said, if for whatever reason something comes off, you are allowed to sticker it again. And the idea, and at the end, by the way, at the end of the game, they always come off. The stickers never last more than a single game. So at the end of the game, if something still has a sticker on it, remove it. But because stickers can stay on in certain zones, like there's cards in the set that allow you to, for example, get a card with a sticker in the graveyard and put it on the battlefield, stuff like that.
That's really cool.
In Constructed, what you do is bring 10 unique ones, so it's singleton, and then you randomly pick 3 at the start of each game. So you have some control where your stickers are, but not complete control of the stickers. And then in a limited game, if it's a draft, you just get the 3 you open. If you're playing sealed, you choose 3 of the ones you open, but you can only ever have 3 sticker sheets.
Oh,
so if you
okay,
have more
okay,
than
okay.
3 because you're playing some form of limited that has more than 3 boosters, you pick whatever 3 you want. And the way to think about them is they're a lot like, I mean, they're not technically counters, they're stickers, but
Yeah.
they're a lot like counters in the sense that they just add abilities and add something onto a card. And because we have stickers to remind you what they are, it allows us to be, to do more. Usually when we do a counter, it's pretty simple because it doesn't say on it what it does.
Yeah,
so we
flying or
yeah,
something,
flying
right?
counter
Yeah.
something. So these are a little more, have a little more detail to them. And there's 48 sticker sheets. Other than power toughness, there's no repeats. No names repeat,
Wow.
no art repeats, no abilities repeat. The reason power toughness repeats is there just weren't 96 different power toughness combinations. So we were obligated to repeat some power toughness combinations.
That's a lot of permutations.
Yes.
All right, let's move on. The next major mechanic in the set is attractions. And I've actually prepared an example if people aren't familiar. The card
Okay.
is called Centrifuge. So it's an attraction artifact. And it has an ability. Visit. Each player draws a card from the library of the player to their right. You may create 3 treasure tokens. And very notably on the card in the art, there are 6 slots beside it. And some of those slots have little numbers in them. So what is an attraction? How does it work? And what are those little numbers along the side?
Okay, so the way an attraction works, attraction is a second deck. Much like contraptions work in Unstable.
Yep.
So they do not have a magic back. They do not go in your normal deck. You randomize them and put them in your deck. In a limited game, you have to have at least 3, but you can have multiples. In a constructed game, you have to have a minimum of 10 and it's singleton. You can have as many as there are 35 unique ones. So you can have up to 35 because it's singleton. And then you shuffle them. When something says to open an attraction, you take the top card of your attraction deck, you put it face up on the battlefield. It is an artifact. It acts like an artifact.
Yep.
The only difference is if it ever would leave the battlefield, instead of going wherever you're sending it, it goes to the discard pile of the attraction deck that we call the junkyard.
Oh,
so it goes to the
okay.
junkyard. There's no way to get anything out of the junkyard.
Sure,
so once
sure,
it goes
sure,
there,
sure.
it's just a place to put it so it's away. But it doesn't go anywhere else.
Okay.
You cannot play an attraction deck in limited unless your attraction deck's at least 3 attractions.
Okay.
So there are 2 attractions per booster. You do draft the attractions, unlike stickers that you don't draft.
Sure.
And so if you want to have attractions, you have to draft at least 3. Like I said, there's 2 per boosters. You have 3 boosters. Like, there's plenty of opportunity to take 3.
Sure, sure.
So I would try to get in the habit of take at least 3.
Take
so,
at least 3
Yeah, so you have the option.
or give it up entirely.
Yeah. So attractions, we talked about that little numbers on the side.
Yes.
So let me explain once they're in play. Okay, now that you have it in play.
So you've played a triggered ability or
Right.
spell that lets you play a spell from your
Right, it
attraction
says open attraction, you put your
Yeah,
attraction deck.
okay.
Okay, as long as you have at least 1 attraction at the beginning of your first main phase, you roll 1 6-sided die, and it doesn't matter how many attractions you have, you only ever roll 1 die, and then you roll the number, and on the attraction to the right side of the text is 1 through 6, and certain numbers are lit up.
Yeah.
Whatever number you roll, you visit everything that's lit up.
That's so cool. Like jackpot, right?
So if you roll a 3, for example, you would visit anything that has a 3 lit up. Nothing has a 1 lit up. Everything has a 6 lit up.
Oh,
So
that's
if you roll
very
1,
cool.
you will never visit anything. If you roll 6, you will visit everything you have.
Now I have to ask about the golden rule.
Yes.
For these attractions, are they the same? Like, do they have the same number? So every centrifuge, for example, would it have
No.
3 and 6? They're all different?
Yeah, so the way it works is, depending on the rarity and how many we have on the sheet,
Okay.
there's 1 attraction, Ferris wheel, that there's only 1 version.
Okay.
There are some rares that there's only 2 versions based on how the rare sheet worked. And then everything else has either 4 or 6 versions of it. There's 3 different type of attractions.
Oh, great.
This is more informal, I guess. What we call rides, which are just things that represent the Ferris wheel, the roller coaster, the log flume, just things you would do at a carnival amusement park.
Sure.
And those have different effects. They often affect your creatures, but they do something. They have some general effect. There are what we call stands or stores, like the concession stand, the costume shop,
Well,
and
we're
those
building here,
are
yeah.
where you get things. You get a card, you get a sticker, you get a token. They help you get something. And then there are the games. And the games are little mini games, all of which have a prize. So it'll tell you something to play. If you visit it, you get to play it. If you are successful in the thing that it's telling you to do, you win the prize. And the prize will be something you get. and then if you ever win a prize, you get rid of that card. It goes to the junkyard, and then you open up a new attraction. So it sort of cycles into a new attraction once you've won it once. You don't get to win it many times. You just get to win it once. If you don't win, it'll stay there, and you can visit again and try to win again.
So they all function similarly in that they're all attractions out there played the same way. They all get triggered the same way, but they have very different sort of payoffs in how they act in your deck.
Correct. The other thing is, like I said before, other than the lights changing, all the attractions are the same, the rules-wise, with 3 exceptions: Trivia Contest, Superlatorium, and Scavenger Hunt. And those, each of the cards has different text on them because you're playing a game, and just to give you more different ways for the game to play, there's different text on those 3. So if you're playing one of those, keep your eye out because there are different versions.
That's amazing. All right, any last thoughts on attractions? You ready to move on to our last sort of mechanic?
I'm ready to move on.
All right, the final, let's call this more of a minor mechanic of this set, is hats. So I have an example of a card that cares about hats. Brim's Barone, a Midway Mobster. Now, they're a 5-mana 5/4 legendary human rogue for 3, a white and a black. When they enter the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on each other creature you control that has a hat. And then Brim's Barone has menace as long as you, as a player, are wearing a hat.
Yes.
So what's going on here?
So one of the things we want to do, something that we can't do in normal sets, is you're not allowed to care about art in normal sets.
Okay.
As I explained earlier, every card has to be the same, that has the same name, and we can have different versions with different art. So we just can't care about art mechanically. Plus, there's some subjectivity, and in ungames that are a little more fun, you know, that subjectivity is okay. In a high-stakes tournament, not okay.
Sure, of course, yeah.
So basically what we're looking for is, at common and uncommon, this is white-black draft archetype, is hats matter. And so you want to care about whether or not things have a hat.
Okay.
A hat basically is a decorative item that is worn on the head. It should not be connected to other things like hoods aren't hats. And most importantly to this thing, space helmets, which are part of space suits, aren't hats.
Okay.
Although a lot of things that have space helmets will have hats on underneath. So you got to look.
I was gonna ask, where's that line between hat and not a hat? So it has to be able to come off.
Right. It has to be something that goes on your head, that's decorative on your head. Just because something puts an object on their head doesn't inherently make it a hat. It has to be something meant for to be decorative. But we're pretty flexible. There's lots of different types of hats. The other thing is about 2/3 of the sticker sheets have a hat sticker. So if you put a hat sticker on your creature, it now has a hat.
Of course.
So here's the important thing to remember. It says has a hat, so it does not need to be wearing the hat. For example, Carnivore Barker is a card, a little dog that gets you to come see things.
Sure.
He's holding his top hat. He's not wearing it, but it says has a hat. So it's fine as long as they have the hat. The other thing is it's referring to the card that the creature is.
Sure.
So if it's talking about there's a creature in the foreground, that's the creature, and then there's things in the background having a hat don't matter. It's talking about the creature whose hat it is. Does this creature have a hat?
I love this.
They don't have to be wearing it, but they have to have a hat.
All right, I have a very important question specifically about like old brims here.
Yeah.
So it says if you're wearing a hat, you have an ability. Can you put a hat on at instant speed as a combat trick, or do you have to sort of decide when the game starts if you're wearing a hat or not?
Oh, no. You can. I mean, you could choose to take your hat on and off. When your hat is on, Brims, for example, has menace.
Yeah.
When your hat is off, Brims doesn't have menace. So, for example, you have to understand correctly when you need to care about menace.
Sure.
So, for example, I don't want to take my hat off and then attack.
Sure.
Because then I wouldn't have menace.
Yeah, after blockers.
But if I have a hat on and I attack, and then they declare blockers, I can take my hat off if I want because menace doesn't matter at that point.
I love this.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on to a very broad conversation, which is just judge and rules philosophy in an unset. So an example like that. So people can be sticklers for rules in this game. What are we looking for in general in telling players how it comes to judging and understanding how an unset works?
Right. So one of the things as the rules manager, mostly what I want to do is I want to make sure that things are clear and that people are having fun.
Okay.
That the number one goal of the uncards, the number one reason we make Unfinity and sets like it is to have fun and enjoy Magic. And it is, the opposite end of the spectrum of sort of serious competitive play. This is more social and casual. And so when you are making rules, when you're doing something, hey, keep that in mind. This is not about rules lawyering. This is not about, trying to suck the fun out of it.
Sure.
It is trying to, I like to be as open and interpretive as possible. You know, for example, like there's a card called Vorthos that cares about characters, and every ruling I've made is I'm like, okay, what would a Vorthos want? Like, what is the most Vorthosian answer I can give? And so whenever you're ruling on cards, like take the spirit with it.
Sure.
You know, you try to pick the thing that leads toward the fun answer, and then that doesn't mean break the rules. The rules say things. So I'm not saying don't say I'm going to have fun and not follow the rules, but it means you don't have to be quite the stickler. That you can be a little looser on some stuff.
In improv, we call that being chivalrous.
Yes.
You know, give the opportunity for the fun thing to happen.
Yeah.
All right, we have time for one edge case. I'm really going to test you on your ability to interpret the rules in these fun ways.
Okay.
So I've got a card called Form of the Approach of the Seventh Sun. It's in this set.
Yes.
It's a 5-mana enchantment for 4 and a white. And it said, when it enters the battlefield, gain 7 life. You become a card until you leave your library, and you become the 7th card inside of it. Now, you have to take those cards and balance them on top of your head.
Right, the 6 cards above you have
6 cards above you. You're now the 7th card in your library.
Yep.
When you draw yourself, you win the game. When one or more cards fall off of your head, exile them, all of those cards in your hand, and then sacrifice the enchantment.
Right.
So we've established that that's the state of the game.
Yeah.
And we have another card from a previous set called Animate Library. So Animate Library is a 6-mana enchantment in blue for 4 blue. Enchant your library. Enchantment Library is an artifact creature on the battlefield with power and toughness, each equal to the number of cards in it. It's still a library. So, if you're the library, and the library is also a creature with power and toughness.
To be clear, you're not a library.
Oh.
You are the 7th card in your library.
Okay.
So if you animate the library, that is fine. You are just a card in your animated library on the battlefield. Now, you still need to balance the top cards in your deck, because if you ever fall, then it'll remove the enchantment and you'll be taken away.
All right.
But yes, you can animate your library that you are in. And by the way, if you, so I made a ruling earlier that if you are in your library, you are a Planeswalker card, because you are a Planeswalker.
Oh my God, okay.
And if you happen to have yet another Aether Vortex, which allows you to be both on top of your library and on the battlefield, and you have a Rules Lawyer because you have no loyalty. Otherwise, Rules Lawyer keeps you from having state-based effects.
Yeah.
That would allow you to be on your own battlefield and be able to attack. So if you can make that happen, there's something you can achieve.
Now, here's to go into chivalry thing. If you are both balancing cards on your head and a creature that can attack, how do you represent that? Do you have to like physically tap yourself in the chair? I don't want to rotate too much away from the microphone. Like, how do you demonstrate that in a game?
I mean, you and your opponent would have to agree on what is representing tap state, and then you have to do that. One of the things that happens a lot in ungames is crazy weird things come up, and so look, you and your opponent should judge and figure out what you think makes sense. If you and your opponent just can't agree, we do what we call outside assistance, which is you can get someone not in the game, and they get to be the tiebreaker. Somehow you and your opponent can't agree. But usually, we like you to talk and come to an agreement that you both can agree to. So,
talk to a friend, have somebody you're like, look, we can't figure out what this is. This is your decision now?
Yes, if you can't agree with your opponent, you go to outside assistance. They break the tie.
Amazing. I absolutely love that. Any last things you'd like to add, just in general, for the spirit of Unfinity to the rules? We just touched on the outside assistance, not interference, outside assistance.
Outside assistance. I mean, mostly what I want to say is when you are playing in tournaments, like, read the cards, understand what's going on. We spend a lot of time and energy sort of explaining what the cards are doing. Often, reading the card will answer the card. But when you get in situations that it doesn't, there is an FAQ that's posted online. So we've answered a lot of questions for you. But if something falls through the cracks, because a lot of weird things that can happen, use your best judgment. And once again, stay in the spirit. We're trying to have fun. This is all about sort of embracing the fun side of Magic. So keep that in mind as you're doing the rules.
I mean, what a great way to end a talk there. So for those of you watching at home, hopefully this helped clear up a lot of the mechanics on how the set's going to work, and as well as ways to resolve if things don't make too much sense. Mark, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
And hope you enjoy playing the set at home.